The One2 Football Podcast. The voices of tomorrow, here today.
Hey guys, welcome back to the One2 Football Podcast. I'm Nathan and I'm joined today by Ollie.
You alright?
With Christmas around the corner, we are getting into the festive spirit. We're going to talk about the players we want to see under our club's Christmas tree this year. Let's get into it.
Okay, so there is only two of us today. R.I.P. Kieran, whose Wi-Fi technical difficulties meant he couldn't be with us. This is our second attempt of recording this, so hopefully this goes better than last time. So, to clarify the rules for the signings, they need to be players that you won't necessarily think of when you think of player transfers going to this club. And they can't be mega money signings. They can't be like Messi or Ronaldo or players like that. So, to kick it off, Manchester United for my team, and the player is Olivier Giroud. He's a player that is proven in the Premier League. He's a player that I think has got something like 5 goals in 4 games in the Champions League this season with Chelsea. And a player that, as Lampard has found out, when he needs a goal, when he needs a player to come on and make a difference, especially in the attacking areas, he is a player that Chelsea rely on. And I think he's a player that would add so much talent to the Manchester United team, especially in a time where in some games we do lack that, that sort of finishing quality, especially when certain players drop out of the squad and we get injuries. Nathan, what do you think of that signing of Olivier Giroud to Manchester United?
Yeah, I can't argue with it. I think Giroud is probably been one of the most reliable strikers in the Premier League for the last, 6 to 8 years. I can't remember when he first joined Arsenal from Montpellier, but he's been in the Premier League for a while, and he's not really ever had a particularly bad season. He's always been steady. Obviously, when he was first adjusting, maybe it was a bit slower, but now he's fully experienced Premier League player. He's been just pretty good the whole time. He's a big part of the France national team, which shows, he still has that national pedigree, and he was a big reason why they won the World Cup. And while he's not the quickest player ever, he's smart. He's an intelligent player. He knows where to be on a football pitch. He knows where the back of the net is. And for Manchester United, well, they obviously have Cavani, and that he's a great striker, and he's proven as such so far in his time there. He's also someone that doesn't have that Premier League experience that Giroud has. And I don't think Giroud has ever minded being a backup striker. I think that's what he's been mainly, because clubs are always looking to get, even when he was at Arsenal, they're always looking to get a new striker every summer to try and, we can do better than this guy, but they always end up going back to Giroud. Seems to be the common theme for all these teams. They always end up going back to Giroud, and that tells me that he would be a very solid signing for Manchester United.
Saying Arsenal always sign a striker, I think they would love to have Giroud at their club right now with their goal-scoring difficulties. But yeah, he's not the typical Manchester United striker. He isn't a Martial, he isn't a Rashford. He doesn't fit into that counter-attacking, fast sort of speed of attack. But he brings something which I think we've lacked probably since Ibra left, and you can't compare the two players, but that sort of strength, that physical presence, that sort of headering ability in the box. And I know Cavani brings headering ability, and he's got more pace, I would say, than Giroud. He's still got that sort of speed to, join the counter-attack. But I think Giroud is such a reliable striker when you bring on off the bench. And I think in a team right now, which United do have on and off games, one game they're amazing, one game they're not, Giroud is a very consistent player when he comes on. He's not a starting player. I'm not saying to start him for Manchester United, even though I think he probably could in some of the performances I've seen from Manchester United of late. But he definitely would add more goals to our squad, and I think he's a player that you could definitely rely on for, 4 mil, 5 mil? I don't know how much he would go for, but not very much. A couple £1 million. He's getting on an age and probably not much left on his contract. So I'd say that, he's definitely get 10 goals or something for you in the season or whatever. So I think it would be a no-brainer, and I've been saying it for years. So yeah, I would love to wake up to the news of Olivier Giroud joining Manchester United. Probably not going to happen. If you want to place a bet on it, put £1 down, probably win £1 million back. Very unlikely. But I think it would be a great treat, and something that Manchester United, I think most fans would probably take at the moment.
Right, for me, my team is Liverpool, and the player I want to sign for Liverpool is someone that, obviously, maybe if Thiago was fully fit, I wouldn't even need to talk about him, and because Thiago would be playing, and that creative spark that Liverpool have sometimes needed in midfield. Curtis Jones has filled that void pretty well so far this season, but he's more box to box in my head. when I'm looking at Emi Buendia from Norwich, I mean, he was in probably one of the worst Premier League sides of all time last season in that Norwich. That Norwich team was awful. But Emi Buendia kind of stood out a little bit. I mean, towards the end of the season, I think a lot of them had just kind of thrown the towel in. And we maybe didn't get to see the best of the Argentinian. But for me, Emi Buendia has that creative spark necessary. He can change a game just by making that one pass, getting past that player and firing a shot on goal. He's very important right now for Norwich as they sit top of the Championship. And to be fair, even though they've got a good squad, I think many people expected Norwich to be top of the Championship, considering they'd spent the last year losing all the time. He fills that gap in midfield that Liverpool have maybe been crying out for. Naby Keita's always injured. Thiago's struggled with injuries so far. And Molly, what do you think in terms of not only Emi Buendia, but that positional need for them?
I mean, he's a good player. I mean, he's been linked with a lot of top clubs, I'm pretty sure, over the last year or so. In a team that didn't really, like you said, perform in the Premier League, he definitely stood out. I'd say him and probably Todd Cantwell. He did well. And so, I mean, I think either of those players should probably be playing in the Premier League. And I think he would be a great addition to the Liverpool side. He's that sort of attacking sort of minded player, which Liverpool could probably do. He could link up the midfield and the attack well. And especially in this injury-prone season for Liverpool, squad depth would never go amiss right now for that side. And I'm pretty sure Klopp would love to have a player of Buendia to rely on the bench or even the reserves. Either way, I think it would be a top signing for a club begging for more players.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realise that he'd signed a 5-year deal in 2019, so it definitely wouldn't be a cheap signing, Emi Buendia, especially if Norwich get that promotion. But I just think he's a good player, and I think very early on when Norwich were a team that looked competitive in the Premier League before it all unravelled, his stats, he was putting up stats very similar to Kevin De Bruyne and Mo Salah in terms of creativity, and that. What you sometimes, how did Norwich keep a hold of him in the Championship? How has he not ended up in Spain? How is he not playing? I mean, even Arsenal could do with Emi Buendia. I mean, Arsenal could do with a lot of players, but Emi Buendia definitely is one of them. I was so surprised he ended up at Norwich. I think Norwich actually have a few players that I wouldn't mind at Liverpool. Max Aarons, as you say, Todd Cantwell wouldn't be the worst shout. But Emi Buendia for me stands out by far. And I just think he'd suit the Liverpool team really well. And Daniel Farke's got that pressing sort of thing going on at Norwich as well. So to come into Liverpool, he'd fit right in with the system, and I just think he'd deliver.
I think Arsenal could do with all three of those players, to be honest with you. And maybe a whole new team and a new manager, if you want to know my views on him. Read my latest article of the opinion piece. But yeah, no, I think he'd be a great signing. Okay, so my second player, after Olivier Giroud for Manchester United, is a player, it will be a re-signing. He has played for us for quite a few years back under Sir Alex. He did leave, and he has now joined a team probably doing better. Well, they are doing better than Manchester United, so it'd probably be a bit of a downgrade, which is shocking to say. It is Jonny Evans. He is a player that would definitely shore up the Manchester United backline in a time where they are desperate for more players in defence. Yes, we have signed Maguire recently, or in the last 2 years or so. We've got Lindelof, and we've got other players. We've got Tuanzebe and stuff coming through who has proven himself in the Champions League. But Man United needs more depth at the back. It's definitely a position which is very much needed, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I'm sure, would be very happy to hear that the club have re-signed Jonny Evans. He is a player with such strength and command over the back line, as he's proven at Leicester. So I think it'd be a great signing. What do you think, Nathan, about Jonny Evans returning to Old Trafford?
Yeah, I think Jonny Evans, probably one of the better centre-backs in the Premier League, has been very consistent for a while, was a good defender in a good defensive West Brom team, apart from their last season in the Prem. And I can't believe Leicester, I just looked up, I can't believe Leicester got him for 3.5 million. That is crazy. A player like Jonny Evans normally would command a big fee, especially at 30, I think he was when he made that move. But yeah, he's just solid. And I think Man United are definitely crying out for a consistent defender. Maguire's good, but not consistent. Bailly's good, but not consistent. Lindelof's good.
Always injured.
Lindelof's good, not consistent. It's just a lot of inconsistency in that back four, and you probably see it a lot with how Man United play. So I can't argue with Jonny Evans. He's in a team that play with the ball at their feet, like under a Brendan Rodgers team, that they always play that sort of way. So he's got experience. I mean, he's played at the highest level with Manchester United. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is trying to recapture that Sir Alex spirit, and why not have Jonny Evans, who was a part of that team that did so well for many years.
I think often when teams re-sign players that they previously had, many see it as like a last-ditch thing. It's sort of a step backwards, trying to get the old times back at the club. But I don't think anyone could say it would be a bad signing or a hopeless signing, because he is definitely one of the best defenders in the Premier League at the moment in recent years. And I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong here, and it might have just been rumours, but I'm pretty sure Man City at a time were interested in him last year. So I think that it would clearly be a very, very strong signing for the Manchester outfit. And if he does return to Manchester, I do hope it's in a red shirt and not a blue.
Yeah, I think he is definitely someone that I think any top four club could do with. I mean, Liverpool could do with him considering the injuries. Obviously, that wouldn't happen because of his background. I assume he wouldn't be so keen on the move. Man City could definitely do with him. I've mentioned it about 200 times. Arsenal could definitely do with it. Chelsea, the only team probably I would say don't really need him. And I mean, Leicester, we've talked about Leicester. Leicester are probably a top four side as well now, or in that top seven. I was about to say, you said about the top four teams would need him. He is in a top four team. So exactly. I feel like going back to Manchester United would probably be a step down in his career, surprisingly enough, saying that from Leicester to Manchester United, and it's painful to say it. But I do think Leicester are probably the better team to be playing at right now if you're a player in the Premier League. I mean, yeah, but I think obviously that history of Manchester United probably gives him the slight edge on Leicester. But Johnny Evans would, as I say, would fit into most teams. He's a very solid centre, quite consistent. I mean, he's had long injuries, but I can't remember a time where he's been constantly bogged down by them. So yeah, I think he offers that. As I say, consistency is the key word for Johnny Evans, and I mean that's probably a very important thing when it comes to defending. And yeah, definitely would fit into Solskjaer's side.
I think one thing to take from these signings that I'm saying is they're all older, more experienced players, and I think the Manchester United team is just desperate for experienced players. I mean, they signed Cavani, and I said they could do with Giroud and with Johnny Evans, but in a team with a lot of youngsters, I think they just need them sort of, experienced players to really command the side and be that presence in the dressing room as well.
My honourable mention for Liverpool is another centre-back. Obviously, Liverpool have had so many injury problems at centre-back. And Joel Matip played so bad against Fulham, we had no centre-backs in the second half in that game. So we do definitely need one. And I was trying to wrap my brains for a player, and then I didn't really know. I'll be honest. Lewis Dunk seems a bit obvious. James Tarkowski's a bit obvious. I was thinking, what players have I seen in real life? What players have passed the eye test? And I went back to time I watched England under-21s versus Austria under-21s. And there was a centre-back player there. He plays for Chelsea. Forgive me if I say this name wrong, but Mark Guay, who's on loan at Swansea City right now, just impressed me so much. And I thought Liverpool could really do with someone like that, a young defender, in a similar mould to Joe Gomez, in that young defender who just had maturity beyond his years. When he's playing, he's at this moment in time, he's in a Swansea side that is the best defence in the EFL, I'm pretty sure, and he just has that thing. He has that centre back presence about him, and that's something Liverpool need right now, considering we haven't got many centre backs with us right now. And you get thinking him next to Virgil van Dijk in a few years' time, that could be incredible. We really could have this guy, Mark Guay. I'm very high on him being someone that for England will be very good, whether that be in a Chelsea shirt or that be in a Liverpool shirt, which I'd love. It would be a very expensive signing. But he can head the ball, he can tackle, and he can pass. And in a modern-day centre-back, that's really all we require. Ollie, I know Liverpool have been needing a centre-back for a long time. What do you think to the positional need of needing a defender?
I mean, I won't go around the bushes with this. I don't know the player. I've not seen the player. But if he's passed the Nathan Smith eye test, then he's got to be a quality player. But no, I could definitely talk about Liverpool's needs for players. Like I already said, they're in desperate need for some squad depth, not in the need that they need talent, but they just need bodies. They have had so many injuries this year, especially in that defensive area. So any player, I think, would be a breath of fresh air for Klopp. I mean, I think even a player such as Maguire, who's so often out of form, I think that Liverpool... Yeah, they probably wouldn't take him, but I mean, they probably would at the same time as needed body. So, yeah, I mean, they definitely need a player. And as you said, I don't know him, but you said he's an upcoming talent. So, yeah, I mean, I think it would be a no-brainer if he is as good as the Nathan Smith eye test has said he is.
This is a very important eye test. England won, I think, 4-1 or 5-1 that night. And I was very impressed. I was very impressed with a few other players, but I don't think we'll get Phil Foden anytime soon. I don't think we'll get Hudson-Odoi anytime soon. So, Mark Guay was someone, and it's kind of optional. I can kind of see it because, I mean, Chelsea have Tomori. They have Thiago Silva's quite old, so they probably wouldn't need to replace him, but they have Christensen. They have a lot of young players. Chelsea probably have the best academy in the Premier League. just so many players that they can't have them all. So we're hoping we can get our hands on Gueye, improve our defence. And I mean, that's someone, again, with Gomez. I can imagine Gomez and Gueye being just a nightmare to defend against, attack against, sorry. From that. And Gueye probably can get a few goals himself. Probably could be a nightmare to defend against for opposition defenders. So another mention I had was a winger from Reading called Michael Elise. Very good, sort of exciting player. I've seen play once in real life and decided this guy's going to be a talent. He's just very quick, very nimble, and has scored quite a few goals for Reading this season, who have been surprisingly good. But yeah, Mark Gueye, for me, that's the guy I want at Liverpool if we can get Emi Buendia.
All I'm going to say is, if you guys like the sound of Nathan Smith's eye test, please just comment below and we can start a whole new thing, a weekly thing of Nathan Smith's eye test, and we can see what youngsters are coming through and should be in the Premier League right now. So just comment below right now if you want to see that happen.
Just Joel Randall every week. Every week, Joel Randall.
Definitely an idea. 1-2 football, Nathan Smith's eye test. It's going to be big. So I don't think we can ignore this. On the day that we are recording this, the news has just came out. West Brom have parted ways with Bilic, and news that Sam Allardyce could be taking over this weekend. So probably when you're listening to this, probably tomorrow, which would be Saturday. So Nathan, I know you've got a few things to say on it. What do you think of the decision to part with him after drawing with Man City 1-1, which is no doubt a great result for a team that was struggling and is struggling and would never probably be thought of to even beat them or maybe even pick a point? It's a great result for them. So what do you think? Do you think it's the right decision? Do you think it's a shock decision? Or do you think it's a wrong decision that was always going to happen?
It's a weird decision. It was definitely always going to happen. I mean, West Brom have not backed this man at all. They haven't really given him a lot to strengthen with in the summer. They've got him Diangana, they got him Pereira, but these are players they already had. They've not really pushed the boat out and trying to get him players. And the defence is probably West Brom's weakest part. I mean, they've got a lot of players that haven't got particularly much Premier League experience. Cole Bartley, Dara O'Shea, and so their most experienced defender, Ahmed Hegazi, probably their best defender. They just sold him to some I can't remember what team it was. I think it was a team in Qatar. I mean, if you're doing that to your manager, who you want to survive in the Premier League, you're so his best defender in all. Like when the season was about to start, I mean, it's so weird that they had it out for him. Even though he's their manager, he's in charge of their team, they wanted him gone. I don't know if they were trying to plant seeds to try and get him to resign. It felt really weird. And West Brom's form's not been the best, but you can't expect much if you don't back a man during the summer window. They coming off that horrible 5-1 defeat to Crystal Palace, where they were just really poor after the red card. They capitulated. The tough defeat to Newcastle certainly didn't help. And then, especially considering all the stuff that had been going on in Newcastle with all the COVID cases. But then they got the draw against Man City. Before the two losses, they'd got a win against Sheffield United, which is arguably a 6-pointer already. And I don't get it. And the signing of Sam Allardyce, I'm not sure. Because they're not scoring goals. So they need someone that's going to help them score more goals. And they're not really... They're not defending too well. So I understand Sam Allardyce coming in. Sam Allardyce, old school manager, he's going to get them playing, defensively sound football, and it could work. Sam Allardyce has made a career out of sort of shocking people that underestimate him. But I don't know. It's just a weird appointment. It feels like an appointment that should have been made, would have been fine to make 4 years ago. But in 2020, Sam Allardyce, I'm not so sure.
I agree. I think it's a strange one. I mean, it's always been a very uneasy relationship between him and the board. I mean, like you said, it was very vocal when they sold Hegazi. And it's clear that he's been unhappy, and it never works. We've said it many times on this podcast that an unhappy manager never does well at a club. But yeah, I do think it's a weird one. I mean, I thought when he signed for West Brom, it was a strange one. Anyway, I think he's a good manager. I think he's Premier League quality manager. I think he's shown that at West Ham. So I think he was a great manager for West Brom to have. And I don't know what went wrong. Something clearly went drastically wrong for them to fall out like that. I think it's probably one of the biggest fallouts of manager and the board in recent years. So I think it is a shame, and I think that he will be back in management fairly soon. But yeah, Sam Allardyce, I think he does what's proven. He comes in, he steadies the ship a little bit, gets the team back on the right track, and then he leaves, and another manager comes in and then deals with what he left in normally a better position, I would say, than what he came in at. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but only the West Brom board and the players and Bilic know what really what really happened there. So yeah, it's a very odd one, but I'm sure he will bounce back, and I'm sure West Brom, it could be make or break for them really now. So it'll be interesting to see how that one unfolds.
I think it's weird because what does Sam Allardyce want from this? I don't know how old he is now, and he was talking about retiring after that whole England fiasco, and I don't know if it was when he was at Everton even he's been talking about retiring. I mean, does he want this to be kind of that original David Moyes at West Ham sort of thing where he comes in, steadies the ship, and then goes? Or does he want to build something at West Brom? Does he want to keep West Brom up and then try and progress them into being a mid-table side? It depends a lot on what Sam Allardyce wants from this job as well. I'm just not sure on this appointment, to be honest. That you see it in the Championship. I know it's a different level of quality, different level. It's different level. And Tony Pulis and Chris Hughton have come in at Sheffield Wednesday and Nottingham Forest, and they're managers that are defensively sound managers that will get your team not conceding goals and will balance it. But they've come in and they've not done anything. Chris Hughton took over Nottingham Forest when they were in 23rd, I think. They're 21st now. Sheffield Wednesday hired Tony Pulis. He's not won in 9 games or something. So are we starting to see these managers that were back in the day, they were known to solidify defences and get teams winning games 1-0, 2-1. Is that starting to wear off with the more sort of high pressing and all that sort of thing that new, more modern managers do nowadays?
I mean, football evolves. It evolves every year. Every year it's different, and every year you see players and managers that did well one year, capitulate the next. I mean, Chris Wilder for Sheffield United last year, they did so well, and now they're not. So it's an ever-changing game, and all the managers that we are stating here, they're all old school managers. The managers that have been in the game for quite a while, and maybe time's just passed. Maybe their time, has gone. And I mean, that you never know. They could now all of a sudden go on and do really well. But I mean, football always changes, and I think the managers always change with it. Only few stay in the game for that long at the top sort of level. And I think Pep, Jose, they all are, and they all have their dips. I mean, Pep is having his dip now. Jose, he is very on and off. He has normally okay start, second season's good, and then he dips in the third season. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tottenham win the league now and then he gets sacked next season. So I mean, it's it's an ever-changing game. But yeah, I mean, clearly the sort of the security managers that you can go to when you're in a time of desperate need, they're not working at the moment. So it will be interesting to keep an eye on, especially as you said that like Pulis and stuff in the Championship haven't really worked out so far.
And that wraps up the 1-2 Football podcast. Thanks for listening. Before you go, make sure to check out our Facebook at 1-2 Football and our Twitter and Instagram all at 1-2 Football UK. And take a look at our website 12football.com for all the latest written pieces from our growing list of contributors from around the world. This, unfortunately, will be the last one before we break for Christmas, but we will be back in January for more top quality podcasts. See you then.
Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year, guys.